Good morning. Back in 1980, I was taken to a movie that introduced me to the new Hollywood era, on the back end of it at least. That movie, Popeye. I can explain. Come take a ride with me. When Popeye was released in 1980, I was only 10 years old. My parents took me to see it. I believe I saw it on New Year's Eve that year. Um, it was probably at the time my absolute favorite movie. Once we left the theater, and I saw it repeatedly during its first theatrical run. And of course, I've seen it many times over the years since. What I didn't realize back then was what I was really watching. Now, if you think about the new Hollywood movement, that started probably the late 60s and lasted through most of the 70s with new young directors coming out, putting out a lot of edgier, more counterculture-ish fare. So you had directors such as Brian De Palma, Martin Scorsese, uh, Michael Cimino, Francis Coppola, and yes, even George Lucas. They were coming out with films that were catching everybody's attention. Maybe because they were a bit more realistic, a less golden age era film, but nevertheless entertaining and very popular. So Robert Altman was also one of those directors. Robert Altman was the director of Popeye. And that might be the last person you would think of for a big studio production like Popeye, which, of course, was a big musical movie that was done as a joint effort between Paramount Pictures and Walt Disney Pictures. And one of two that they ended up doing in that era. Dragon Slayer was the other. Now, it did not turn out to be the runaway smash hit that they had hoped for. It wasn't a bomb like its reputation suggests. It just wasn't the huge hit. And critically, it didn't do terribly well. But I didn't realize what I was seeing back then because you had all of the parts and pieces of the new Hollywood era just all in one film. You had one of the new Hollywood era directors. You had Robert Altman. You had legendary producer Robert Evans from The Godfather fame. He was producing the film. You had Jules Pfeiffer writing the script for the film. You had Harry Nielsen doing the score and the songs for the film, and you had Robin Williams, who at that time had just really broken onto the scene big with Mork and Mindy. So Robin Williams might be the least new Hollywood era of the elements there, but the fact that he was a legend by the time that he passed away, it pretty much says a lot. But there was so many things about it that were very Robert Altman-esque. If you watch some of his other work, you have the overlapping dialogue, you have the close, quick close-ups. I don't know how else to describe it. Uh, you just had certain scenes that just had the distinct Robert Altman flavor to it, and this is very much a holdover from his work during the New Hollywood era. I mean, he pretty much hit it big with MASH back in 1970, so 10 years earlier, and continued to be popular throughout the 70s. Going to see Popeye as a child, you don't really think about all of these things. You think, well, the songs are catchy, and by golly, I had the soundtrack album, and I played that thing to death. I know all the songs backwards and forwards, even to this day. It's one of the few records. I went to my parents' house. They still had it. Now, it doesn't quite hold up over the years. Popeye is kind of sort of a forgotten character. If he had not just gone into public domain recently, I don't think a lot of people would even know much about who he is. In fact, they just started making the horror movies that they do whenever something goes into um, public domain, like they did with Mickey Mouse and Winnie the Pooh and all of that. And that is to say, they're all bad. So I haven't seen the horror Popeye movies. Um, But before that, I think this generation has pretty much forgotten about Popeye. It was something that I watched on cartoons growing up, so I knew it pretty well. I mean, throughout the '70s, you were watching Bugs Bunny, Mighty Mouse, Heckle and Jekyll, Popeye, Tom and Jerry, a whole mix of those cartoons. But you don't really see a lot of them anymore, except on specialty channels like I think Boomerang was one of them. I don't even know if that's still a thing. Uh, Popeye, even though it's lost its popularity, it's still a fun movie to go back and watch. I mean, the cast was pitch perfect, and it really introduced characters even I wasn't familiar with back then. You had the entire Oil family, the mom, the dad, the brother, uh, characters like Ham Gravy that you probably never heard of before unless you were a real fan of Popeye from the early comic strip days. And in fact, there was a book that came out maybe a year or so before the movie called Popeye: The First 50 Years, and I got a copy of it. It was after the movie came out that I got it, but it's just fascinating, and you see all the different characters that existed over the years, and the ones they ended up using in the movie, and obviously the ones they didn't use in the movie, like the Sea Hag and Eugene the Jeep, things like that. I mean, they really brought it together really well, as far as I'm concerned, as much as anyone could for a movie about a one-eyed sailor that kind of talks funny and has enormous forearms. But Popeye was still a great movie. It's still a fun watch if you have kids, and if you get a chance, if you haven't seen it or just haven't seen it in a while, give it a look. It's still a lot of fun. So, did you have a movie like that when you were growing up that you saw and just didn't realize that you were watching the work of masters at work? Or maybe it's just something that had a lot of cooks in the kitchen and it should have been great and it just didn't turn out the way you wanted it to or the way critics thought it should. If you have a movie like that, just drop me a line down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And please like and subscribe. I would just want to shout out to my new subscribers out there. Just a heartfelt thank you for subscribing. And I'm just absolutely thrilled that you're taking this journey with me. So thanks for coming along for the ride. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.